Alright fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters. This time we got the Arc Suit Leon and Charizard banner overview, character review, whatever you want to call it. Arc Suit Leon, yes, our fourth Arc Suit character. This guy's good. Quite strong. Worth going for. Does not hold really, I don't even think he holds a candle, no pun intended, he's fire type, to the other three Arc Suits that were released during the anniversary, which I guess makes sense because they're anniversary characters, but also at the same time they debuted the Arc format, so you figured that Arc Suit characters would at least be god tier broken. I feel like Leon makes sense for a lower tier Arc Suit, or like Arc Suit character, or like a Master Fair type of, like in terms of strength, because Arc Suits are the best of the best. Cynthia, Lance, and Steven are so strong. Lance is like the weakest of those three, but he's still really, really powerful. I would say Leon is weaker than Lance, but still also really, really powerful, but still not. So he clearly just doesn't hold much of a candle to Steven or Cynthia, and not really even Lance, but he's still really good. Which is, again, makes sense because he's not an anniversary character, but also doesn't make sense because he's an Arc Suit Scout. But, and there's multiple reasons why I think that, but I guess we'll go into the kits first and see. So, of course, he's an Arc Suit Scout. He's got 1% pull rate. He's already out. I'm not going to summon for him until I get some more gems built up. Then I'll go for my summons and post that. I'm going for only one copy. I could probably pull right now. I don't know how many gems I have. I don't know. I'd have to look. But whatever. Not really the point. Anyway, November 29th to December 17th, this is changed. He actually leaves on January 7th. We got confirmation of that. It's now in-game live as an update. So thankfully, he's got a very, very good duration, which is awesome, of course. So if you want to pull for him, don't let this scare you. He's actually got like 2.5 to 3, pretty much 3 weeks more availability. So yeah, just don't panic too much there. Anyway, he's multi. He has the Tech EX roll, which is a pretty good EX roll for him. It gives him that extra sync power, which is good. He's weak to Electric, Fire Galar Champion, Free Spirit. I feel like he should have the 5th theme skill somewhere in there, but okay. And the stats. At level 140 with no investment, he's got 660 health, 176 defenses, and 414 special attack with 351 speed. Nothing crazy about these stats, but these are good base stats to be able to increase via level 150, 6-star EX, and the EX roll. With level 150 and 6-star EX investment, he has 476 special attack, which is really good, nearly 800 HP, 224 in the defenses, and 409 speed. Very respectable stats. These are quite solid, even again for Arc Suit Scout standards, considering Lance has got worse special attack and attack than this. And with the Tech EX roll, all those stats go up a little bit as well. He's got nearly 500 special attack, which is again really good. 244 in both defenses. These are pretty solid defensive stats for just being able to like take stray AoEs or be able to take some hits in the Legendary Gauntlet. With its lower power level, it's similar for most stages, not all of them, good lord. But yeah, again, these defensive stats are fine. Not going to be a dedicated tank most of the time, but they will enable a good bit of survivability. Same with the HP, and 409 speed is quite solid again. So yeah, he's got good stats. Very, very, very nice. Super Awakening level up, not available, true. Okay, and looking at his moves, he's got Inferno. Of course, Leon and Charizard, the base Master Fair character, has Inferno. 4 gauge, 183 minimum power, 219 max power, and it leaves the enemy burned. It has a 50% accuracy rate, but he does have a passive that makes it so his moves never miss, so don't worry about that. He's got Protect here for damage guard. This is nice, helps you take sync move attacks, take high-powered enemy attack. I mean, this has been notoriously helpful for pretty much all characters that it's on, especially strikers. Like Champion Red has made great use of having damage guard to enable himself to survive enemy max moves, sync moves, or just like very, very strong attacks that wouldn't be able to take otherwise, and Leon is no different. That's good. His trainer move raises his special attack by 6, crit by 3, and applies free moves next to himself. That's of course good because both of his main damaging moves are 4 gauge moves, and even with this speed stat of over 400, that's not going to be carrying his gauge. So it's good that he's got that. And he's got his buddy move, which is Almighty Fire Blast. It's a 4 gauge 1-use move, 700 minimum power to 840 max power. Targets one opponent. It's activated when whenever there is a burned enemy. Deactivated when there is no longer any burned enemy, and it leaves the target burned, which is a little bit redundant, but sure, whatever, I guess. This buddy move is not bad by means, but it is definitely not as strong as it could be, considering that 700 power, again, not bad, but these high-powered one-use buddy moves like Lance, Ash, even Nemonas or Cygnus Gladions, all of these have multipliers that make them stronger, way stronger than like 840 base power or whatever. Consider that fact. That is what is kind of holding Leon back here, is that he's got 840 power, which is good, but he doesn't have any multiplier to increase it. If you got a multiplier that increases damage by like 1.5 times or double, then this buddy move would be really good. But it simply does not have that, which is obviously not good. It does not help its damage out at all to not have that extra power on it, and it actually makes it a lot weaker than what you would actually think. Because if we go ahead, again, let's take a gander at Ash's. Let's find Ash wherever he is. Down here. Buddy move, 480 power, already 500, but it's got a multiplier. Uses a maximum of 6 slots of the user's move gauge. I don't remember exactly how much of an extra increase in power it is per extra gauge it uses, but I know that it equals to about like 2,000 base power or something similar to that, maybe a little bit higher, a little bit lower, and that, again, that's the big difference. Nemona. Hers is 120 power, but I actually do remember that I believe hers is 50% extra power per speed buff that she's got. So effectively, this, with extra 300%, this is 480, and she gets 2 uses of it because of where... I don't know what the passive is that she has. Yes, first Sync move, Restore Buddy move here. She gets an extra usage of it. So, where she's got 480 power, as opposed to Leon's 840, Nemona still has actually 2 uses of that move. Again, not a bad buddy move. It's going to do some pretty good damage. But, again, consider, it's got a lot lower power than what you would expect otherwise of characters of similar god tier one-use buddy moves. So it's going to be significantly weaker, but still pretty strong, because again, it's not like 800 power is a slouch in terms of how much damage it can do. He's got G-Max Wildfire and Max Guard, because it is a G-Max Charizard, so you do get that fire damage guard on the opponent's field of play after using the move. It's 400 power, of course. Fire damage guard is fine for having the enemy take extra chip damage. Deactivating gimmicks like Ultimate Battle versus Giovanni, right? He needs a damage field or some sort of field effect on his side of the field in order to take damage. So damage fields are good for that. They're good for taking damage over time, and also it activates a few of his multipliers once we get into looking at his grid. So it's a decent thing. And also max guard for extra damage guard if you were to need it. Just saying, there could be situations for it. Anyway, passive skills, he's got Flame Myth and Flame Judgment. These are the fire, basically, Master Fair passives, I guess. Fire types, powering up fire moves moves of all allies by 10%, taking extra damage reduction of 20%, up to 30% maximum power up, and 26% damage reduction the more fire types you have on the team. Of course, this doesn't just apply to fire type characters or fire moves. This applies to all moves, but it is powered up more when there are fire types. So, just consider that. He's also got Flame Judgment, raising fire type rebuff of all allies first time the user enters a battle each battle, and lowers the fire type rebuff of all enemies on entry as well. So he's giving you extra fire resistance and extra fire damage, or at least a buff to fire damage with 30% of power from the -1 rebuff. That's good, especially when you combine it with characters like Champion Leaf or Sigma-Suit Hilbert, who can already apply fire rebuff on their own. There's a good amount of characters that can apply fire rebuff, so Leon's going to be kind of cooking with that. And again, no pun intended. So it's good to have these. It's good to have these extra stacks of fire rebuff just to help enhance team damage. And by the way, with Neo Champion Leaf rerunning later in the month, those are good partners. Those are very, very good partners for each other. Just saying. Anyway, Champion who hears the cheers. When the user's sync move or max move targets an opposing sync pair, the target becomes all opposing sync pairs. Whatever. Power of sync moves or max moves are not lowered for multiple targets. I don't know why it says this, because they never are anyway. And the attacks become guaranteed crits as well. So he's got guaranteed crits on his sync moves and max moves, and moves because of the +3 crit he gets here. He's got extended sync moves and max moves for all enemies, and their power is not lowered, but I don't know why they mentioned that, because sync moves and max moves don't get lowered split damage anyway. Sure, whatever. It doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, so this is obviously good. It makes him AoE. Effectively more of a striker than a tech. I don't know why they give him the tech yak scroll, other than the fact that it helps boost his sync damage, which I'm cool with. But yeah, he's more of a striker than anything. And then Champion Time, reducing sync countdown by 3 after using the max move, and raising special moves next by 3 after using the max move as well. This is a good thing to potentially chain from the Max Wildfire into the buddy move, because again, use the Max Wildfire, get the damage guard, get the sync countdown, get the special moves next, and then use the buddy move, and that buddy move is enhanced by +3 special moves next, which is good. That's obviously really, really strong power, especially if you can provide a support or another character that can give him even more special moves next. That would be very strong. And then he's also got, again, Unbeatable Leon, Moves Never Miss, and Guaranteed Crit Protection, effectively Innate Vigilance and Piercing Gaze. That's good. So Moves Never Miss, Inferno, cool. You can obviously deal with evasion enemies a lot better that way as well, or accuracy debuffs or whatever. And protecting against crits is nice for like fighting ultimate battles. Again, those ultimate battles crit sync moves that you could have protected against with Protect here. You now don't have to, unless you really, well, you can. Obviously, they could still be really hard-hitting sync moves. But now you've also got that crit protection to be able to safeguard against a lot of those attacks even better. So we love to see crit protection. That is very, very strong. And that's most of his abilities. He does have his sync move here, which is a 300 power minimum sync move, which gets buffed by the Tech EX roll by 1.5 times extra for 450 minimum to 540 maximum, which is good power for sure. And with the multi EX, he does give enemies extra fire rebuff on using his sync move. So AoE fire rebuff for all the enemies on entry and on the sync move, -2 rebuff. It's a multi effect, of course. And he also gets super effective next, which, if you're doing super effective damage, obviously that's great. Otherwise, not really, honestly. Super effective next is just so mediocre compared to like sync move up next or physical or special moves up next. Because those can be used off type, and that really diversifies the amount of stages that it's useful in. It like the most meaningful or impactful fire type stages that you're going to be fighting are Ultimate Battle Thornton, which he's going to be good against anyway. Super effective next just makes it even more of a cakewalk. Cobalion Legendary Arena as a potential solo or something like that, which I mean, maybe it helps there, but I think he'd already be good enough anyway. Other fire type stages that really need the extra power, a damage challenge would be good in, but you'll see for another reason why not really, because his sync move, his sync nuke kind of blows. At least I think so. His sync nuke probably isn't going to be that great, which does hurt quite a lot. But the super effective next helps that, right? It helps the damage challenge. So yeah, if you're like just trying to beat fire stages with him, then the super effective next is going to be great. But if you're trying to use him in a big, diverse amount of stages, then this sync move effect is not really that helpful for you a lot of times, just because there's a lot more stages that are not fire weak than ones that are fire weak. I don't think they're just, catering to Leon all that much here. Not yet, anyway. So, yeah, that's his base kit. Strengths, obviously, he's very easy to use. Good offensive stats. He's got good power on his moves. He's got fire rebuff, of course, for enhancing his damage. Downsides, no sync multipliers at all. None. Doesn't have extension on his damage field, which doesn't really matter, at least at 1 out of 5. So damage field kind of just exists. It doesn't really help him too much. And outside of just having the fire rebuff and the high base power, he does no real other form of damage enhancement. His special moves up next at +3 is good for a little bit of extra burst, but outside of that, he doesn't have really any consistent things to enhance his damage. No debuffs, no special moves up next outside of that one use, no multipliers. Kind of iffy. And he also has no good, real tech other than the rebuff. I mean, I guess sync acceleration, but again, no debuffs. I guess he's got burn. Okay, his tech's fine, I guess. He's got burn, but no debuffs kind of sucks. That's one big thing that could have helped him a lot. He's got no ability to buff his own defenses or heal himself, so his defensive prowess is really relying on his partners, which is, again, not horrible, especially considering he's still got a grid we can look at. But still, just a 1 out of 5, he's fine. He's got some extra multiplier stuff. He's got the ability to enhance fire types, of course, with his fire rebuff and his passes and whatnot here. But outside of that, could definitely use a little bit of work. And he gets some help in the grid. Some. 1 out of 5 in the grid, he doesn't really get much besides Dauntless and Flameproof, which in their own right could be helpful, but nothing too crazy. At 2 out of 5, he gets Special Attack +20, Max Healer, Inferno, Gauge Refresh 3, Sunscreen 2, Speeding Sun 2, Trade of NPR, Endurance, Protect Brain Gain, and Protect Gauge Refresh, I guess. Some better stuff for utility. Gauge Refresh for helping his gauge. Max Healer just does give him 20% healing, which that 20% healing could legitimately be helpful. It really could be. but I wouldn't really rely on it too terribly much. It definitely would have been better if he had like some tick healing, like healing sun or healing on fire damage field or something like that, right? I think those would have been a good bit more helpful than 20% healing upon using the max move, which you may want to preserve for other reasons anyway. Sunscreen 2 for damage reduction does help the survivability a little bit. Speeding Sun 2 helps the gauge again a little bit. So again, more survivability. Same thing with endurance. If you do need to get down to 1 HP, or you happen to get down to 1 HP, he will survive, which is good. Combine that with his protect and max damage guard. If you opt to use that over max wildfire, you'll be able to have a lot more survivability that way, which I will say at 1 out of 5 that does help his, again, survivability, having that damage guard. So that's nice. Trainer move NPR, I really are just doing it for the free moves next. I don't really have much else to say there. Just yay, free move next. Cool. Again, more gauge stuff. And yeah, that's mostly all he gets. The plus 20 special attack is nice for sure. You know, that's great. But really, these are abilities that are, I don't think they're going to be too crazy, too super impressive. But they are going to be enabling a little bit better survivability out of him, or gauge management, whichever one you choose. And protect brain gain. I mean, again, you can stack some moves up next that way, special moves up next that way, just like with the plus 3 from using the max move and then plus 1 from using protect, if you want to go for that. But really, I wouldn't rely on that too terribly much. Okay. And 3 out of 5. He gets G-Max, Wildfire, Power plus 100, Max Move, Hit, Burn 9, Sync Move, Fire, Damage Field, Inferno, Gauge Refresh 9, Sync Freebie, Trainer Move, Sync, moves up, Sync Move Boost 4, 9, yep. Scorching Sync 9, Burned, Burned Down, Attack and Special Defense, and 3 different Sync Nodes. Sync Nodes are nice. That's cool. He gets pretty high power here with the EX roll unlocked. That's, come on. EX unlocked. 595 power, pretty much. That's pretty damn strong sync power. That's going to help him a lot. He's got an actual sync multiplier now, so his sync isn't going to be totally garbage. 90% multiplier for having the enemy burned. He's going to be wanting to do that anyway, so that is nice. And he's also got the sync move up next and using the trainer move. Thing with this is that this is kind of hard to reach. You have to pick up either Speeding Sun or the Trainer with NPR to get to it, or go around about, but you're not really going to do that. Trainer with NPR would be good for this, because this means you can get multiple instances of the same move up next. It's a lot of RNG, but hey, go for it, I guess. But again, it's kind of out of the way here. But plus 4 Sync move up next is going to help him a lot. Again, he doesn't have any multipliers outside of that Scorching Sync 9 there, which if he just had Scorching Sync 9, his sync would not be that great. I mean, he would have still the fire rebuff, he'd still have the high-powered sync move and whatnot. Like, his sync wouldn't be terrible. It wouldn't be. It would be pretty strong, or decently strong, but it wouldn't be anything crazy. It wouldn't be Lance levels, it wouldn't be Arc Cynthia levels, nothing like that, or even like high-tier Master Fairs or high-tier tech characters, whatever. But having the sync move up next does help out that a lot. Plus 4 is pretty good at that. But again, you do kind of have to go out of the way to get it a little bit. And again, he does have the sync nodes here to increase his sync power. He's got sync fire damage field. Again, this is not really that helpful until you get to a certain point, which he's still not reached the level of investment. That is at 4 out of 5. I wouldn't really consider this too crazy at 3 out of 5, considering he doesn't really get anything with fire damage field again until 4 out of 5. Inferno Gauge Refresh 9, combine that with Inferno Gauge Refresh 3. These can be good for like Legendary Gauntlet gauge managing stuff, or if you are running a team that does not have great gauge, which is kind of hard considering Cygnus Morty is one of the best fire supports still, and he's one of the best gauge support characters as well. Other than that, I mean, again, Legendary Gauntlet stuff, that's just mostly where you're going to find the biggest usage of these Gauge Refresh nodes. Burned down attack and special defense 9. Debuffing enemy attack and special defense when attacking a burned enemy. That's going to help enhance his damage. This is where his debuffs actually, you know, he gets those. Helps take hits from physical damage dealers, and it also helps him do extra damage, and the team take extra damage as well. I do kind of wish his moves were AoE. Like, if they would have given his moves regular, extended range instead of just his sync moves and max moves, this would be a lot better to consider, considering those would not have lowered power, and he'd be able to debuff enemy stats AoE, which would be really good. And also the strong buddy move would be AoE too. But yeah. So, this is still a good node, again, though, consider only single target, but still, it's going to be strong when you're facing only one enemy, or there's only one enemy you really want to focus on anyway, so that's good. Other than that, he's got the max wildfire power up and max move burn, guaranteeing burn on opponents that are hit with the max move. This is easy. This is good to activate the buddy move condition, or it's good just to get the enemies burned for being able to debuff them or whatever you need them to be burned for, considering most of the stuff is revolved around burn. This will be good for enhancing that damage. We're making that happen because his max was AoE, it burns them. Pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, that's Arc Leon's 3 out of 5. It's a pretty decent 3 out of 5 for sure. It gives him an actual sync nuke. That's the biggest thing. It gives him an actual sync nuke with Scorching Sync and the sync move up next. I think definitely the biggest issue with it is how hard it is to get to the sync move up next here. That can be rough. Yeah, that's about probably what you're going to be building for. And then you can go like Protect, Brain Gain, or Endurance, or really whatever you want just to get to this tile. It doesn't really matter too much. Either way, this is probably his best grid for in terms of being able to actually like sync nuke, considering he's got guaranteed crits and an AoE sync nuke off of his good offensive stats, and he's able to debuff or rebuff enemies fire type rebuff. Lower enemies fire type rebuff. There we go. That's what we're looking for in terms of words. So that's going to be strong. You're going to want to use a sync move for that purpose, and being able to make it actually do damage, that's going to be helpful. He does have a decent bit of overlap with Champion Leaf, just because she also does the same effect, right? I don't know if hers is AoE. I don't think it is, because she's a single target nuker. Lowers target fire rebuff when uses a status move. Lowers target fire rebuff when the single targeting the opponent successfully each battle. Activate only has to be once per battle. So yeah, she can only do one rebuff on the middle enemy. At least Leon's is against all enemies. And again, if you're running them like together, then you don't have to worry about the debuffs. Leaf's got that covered. You don't have to worry about a lot of single target damage because they both got that covered. I guess the sense of running them together is that you want the Leon to handle multiple enemies. You want Leaf to be able to handle one enemy. And also they power each other up from master passives, arc suit passives, fire rebuff, debuffs. You know, they work really, really well together. But also at the same time, you have a decent case to make for Champion Leaf being able to just straight up replace Leon on some different setups. Like, she can pair very well with a lot of other characters. Like, for one, Signet Suit Red and Mixed Blue, they help enhance her Kanto, they enhance her, considering Blue sets Sun, Red can also set Sun and help her, and she's a Sun setter. Like, Leon doesn't set Sun at all, he really wants a Sun setter for his team, so the fact that Leaf is a good partner for that already makes her a strong asset to that team, and the fact you can also just, again, replace Leon. I mean, there's decent options, but again, he's still really good, and you can pair them together and be a really strong team anyway. I'm just thinking more of a, like, value sense of, do you want to spend all your gems on Leon and, you know, miss Leaf, or do you want to go for Leaf and miss Leon, or do you want to be able to get both and have a really strong fire type team? Because again, Leon's gonna be really good, but you can easily replace him if you don't have like the money to spend or the gems to spend or whatever. They make, you know, whatever. So 3 out of 5 Leon, good, sync damage, very, very helpful. He also gets, again, a few more utility things, like the defensive debuffs is very good. Again, if you don't have Champion Leaf, you know, do that for you. The Endurance, sync freebie for some gauge stuff, this Sunscreen, Max Healer, you know, these good abilities for survivability, that helps out too, a decent chunk. They could be better, but they do help out. 4 out of 5, this is where the fire damage field actually becomes useful. Increasing special moves next by 1 when attacking an enemy in a fire damage field. Yeah, that's going to be good. He's going to need that extra power considering he does not have multipliers. That's one of his bigger issues right now, is the fact that he still doesn't have multipliers. He's only got Inferno, Fire Rebuff, and the Special Defense debuff. So the fact he's got another usage of special moves next here is going to be helpful to actually increase his DPS, which is probably one of his bigger weak points at the moment. So having that special moves next on using fire damage field is good. That makes the sync fire damage field tile a lot more useful to actually pick up. And honestly, I would just end up foregoing these nodes if you are running, especially if you're running him with like Champion Leaf, then you can easily forego this tile with no problem whatsoever, and you'll be able to still get like full sync power-ups and all of that with him. Definitely not a bad grid to run, just to point out. And then that is leaving him to 5 out of 5. So again, at 4 out of 5, he gets good DPS enhancement. Special moves next is valuable. 5 out of 5, he gets hit, sync, move, boost 2. This is a very helpful tile. Be able to just land a hit on the enemy and get sync move up next is extremely strong, because again, Leon does lack a really strong sync move, because he's only got 1 multiplier, even off of like 600 power, 600 damage, right, that he's still lacking strength. So the fact that he gets the sync moves here to actually increase the extra sync move next he already gets is strong. One problem with this is that, again, in the fire damage challenge, he's probably going to be a great option just because of the fire rebuff and all that junk anyway, whatever. But he doesn't have consistent sync boost or sync move up next or whatever you want to call it, because he can't really land attacks. If you're landing attacks in the damage challenge, then you're decreasing your time, and that's going to be decreasing the amount of sync moves you can use, and that's really where a lot of the power in a lot of these stages comes from. Unless you're like Sigma Suit N and you spam freeze shocks. But that's not really the point. Point is, you're using this. This is good pretty much anywhere outside of the damage challenge. This is going to be a good way to enhance his damage and make his sync nuke a lot stronger. But in it, you're gonna be struggling a little bit. So his main method of getting sync power is not really consistent across that game mode specifically, but in like ultimate battles or the battle rally, champion stadium, fucking high score event, whatever you fight. Otherwise, this is a great tile to get to enhance the sync damage. So it's really just that one mode that it's not super practical in. Which in that mode, the practicality is spamming for fucking trainer move refreshes. I would bet my dollars on. So what the hell was that? Anyway, whatever. The sync move hit boost, good power up for a sync move. What he needs. That's strong. But yeah, that's pretty much what he's got. At 5 out of 5, of course, he's going to be strong. I still think his power level overall is a lot weaker than the buffs that like Lance, Steven, and Cynthia got. Lance got an extra rebuff. Cynthia got extra sand and ground zone, which is massive, and also physical moves up next. Steven wasn't like fantastic either. His 4 out of 5 though really was. The attack debuffs and special attack debuffs were super good for his roles as support. But with Leon's, which are good for him too, I don't think it really does as much as it did for those characters. Like if this was like special moves next +2 or +3, we're kind of talking. I'm tooting a different horn here because that could be really strong. Or if this was like +3 or +4 sync move up next per hit, that would also be really strong. But as it is right now, with everything else Leon's got about him, I feel his overall power level's a good bit lower than where the other arc suits place, because his sync nuke's not as good as Cynthia's for sure. It's not as good as Lance's, I wouldn't even say. His damage is only really enhanced by the special moves next and basic debuffs. He doesn't really have any multipliers for them, which can hurt him sometimes. His buddy move is pretty underwhelming in terms of performance, just compared to characters like him, like again Ash, Lance, Sigma Suit Gladion, and those types, especially those characters that get like 2 uses of their buddy move. It would have been far better if this buddy move was just like 400 power, but it was infinitely repeatable across like every single sync cycle, like Ray's or Champion Marnie's or whoever else is right. That would have been a lot better for him, I would say, in terms of being able to do a lot of damage. But whatever, it's not really the point, I guess. He's still going to be a very, very strong striker type of fire character. He's easy to use, simple, and pretty strong, and still a good character, and still, I would say, worthy enough to be an arc suit. Just again, I think that the power level he's probably the 4th best arc suit, I guess you could say at this point, considering there's only 4 of them. But whatever, that's not really the point. Good character to go for if you really, really want a good fire type damage dealer, especially if you do plan to go for Champion Leaf and you just want to make a stupidly strong fire type team in general. Then these two characters are going to be amazing options for it. Though if I were to put it down to which one should you pick, Champion Leaf really should. She enhances fire. She enhances the team better, and she also has amazing perks for her own damage, especially her debuffs, healing, fire rebuff on her own. Yeah, I definitely just a character I think is better, worth investing in or pulling for, especially because she only needs 3 out of 5 to perform well, as opposed to Leon's 5 out of 5. And also the fact that summoning on her banner only has 400 scout points and not Leon's 500, right? Whatever. Anyway, I'll see you later. Hope you all enjoy. That was my overview for Arc Suit, Leon, and Charizard. Still a good character to go for. I'm not trying to crap on them. I'm going to go for them 1 copy, because at least they're decent in base as a damage dealer. Sure. Whatever. Yeah. Peace out. I hope you all enjoyed.